imagine that you don't know who I am, but if you don't, I actually teach at Triplet Tech, which is in Mount Jackson, which you didn't know. And I teach culinary arts to juniors and seniors who are interested potentially in learning more about cooking for themselves or for families down the road, or they're interested in going to some kind of culinary school after they finish high school. Presently, my program, it's a 2-year program, and in that program, my students spend 2 years learning about, obviously, fundamentals of cooking, including things like knife skills, which is what Megan is working on. And we also learn about mother sauces like hollandaise and bechamel, and many of you probably might not know the French terms, but you know what I speak of. I do spend quite a bit of time with my students talking about how we cook, why we cook what we cook, and what our diet is involving. Young people, as a rule, they don't eat very well. They eat a lot of processed foods. They eat a lot of junk. Guilty as charged also, even though I'm not a teenager anymore. Even though in my mind I think I'm about 15, but not today. Thank you, I appreciate that. My first prize winner. At Triplet Tech, is everyone in here familiar with Triplet? Yes? Well, let me say a little bit about Triplet in general. Triplet is the VOTEC Center for the Shenandoah County Public Schools. We have programs for career and technical education, including obviously culinary, but also we do masonry, electricity, we do auto body and collision repair, we do auto tech maintenance, we do motorcycle maintenance, we do, actually, the 2 students that are with me today were sad because our carpentry students just built a home on the property and they were taking the crane and lifting it out and putting it onto a truck to take it away today. So they were like, we don't get to see it go out. I said, but look at all these lovely people we get to spend time with today. So, we also teach CNA. We also have a nutrition program, healthcare sciences. We also have criminal justice. Those folks can go on and get degrees and be CSI investigators or whatnot. They all think they're going to be CSI investigators on my dad. Somehow the television has made it seem that way. We also have cosmetology in our building. We also have a bridge program for students that have a difficult time being in regular high school. We have a program with about 30 kids in it right now, grades 8 through 12, that are trying to get their requirements done so that they can graduate without having to be in the confines of a regular classroom. So, which is really, really important. We also have an early childhood education program. We have a nursery school that runs 3 days a week in our program. So we have a lot of things going on. My little pitch for Triplet, if you're interested in knowing more about Triplet, we will be having an open house. It's open to the public in November, on November 15th from 5 to 7:30. We'd love to see you. My students will be doing a spaghetti dinner for $5. Yes, spaghetti dinner, isn't that amazing? That's not part of my talk today, I might add, but I'm a little bit of a comedian, I'm sorry. I have to do that. So if you're interested, I would love to see you come up. We have door prizes available that evening. We'll have students in the building that are going to be demonstrating like what it is they do during the day. And it's a really good opportunity for you to see perhaps a different side of young people. Because we all have an idea of what we think young people are, but this is actually an opportunity where they're using these a lot and not that part so much, which makes a difference. So today they've asked me to come here to kind of talk about food in general, about diabetic needs. Now, our society is quite great with diabetic needs right now. We have a larger population than we've ever had in the United States of folks that are either on the line or over the line or creeping towards the line. So that is one of the things that I actually teach my students is what does a balanced plate look like? It's important. Okay, most of our kids don't eat fruits and vegetables. They don't. In fact, that's one of the hardest things for me. When I'm working with kids and I say, yeah, but what's missing from this plate? They're like, ranch? Seriously. Yeah. So, interestingly enough, trying to get them to figure out how they can incorporate more fruits and vegetables and protein in their diet versus junk. It's the hardest lesson they'll learn. Because most of them really don't eat at home very frequently. They eat out a lot. They eat McDonald's. They eat at Sheetz. And so that's one of the things in the program that we spend time with. We do a lot of catering at the school for different organizations, including the Shenandoah County Retired Teachers. We've done stuff for the Shenandoah Fellowship. We've done stuff for the Shenandoah Valley Music Guild. And those folks come in and my students prepare a meal, serve a meal, and clean up. Anybody ever been to one of my events? Yay! So please come back again. We'd love to have you back. When we speak of foods, like a group this size, it's a fairly large group. My two students are a little nervous. They're not used to being in front of this many people who are watching them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
My program actually has 12 seniors this year, but I have 21 juniors.
Wow.
CTE education is really on the increase, and so all of our programs in this building, in my building, are greatly increased this year, more so than any year. This is my 6th year at Triplet. And we're seeing increased numbers because more and more kids don't know what to do. They don't know what to do and they don't know how they're going to get where they want to get. So we're trying to get them a trade so that they can at least work till they figure it out. Or something happens in that where there's a click and a light bulb that goes off. So one of the first things I do with my students is, what do you think looks like, what does a really good, well-balanced plate look like? Not kidding about the ranch. The ranch is part of the general conversation. But when we think about that, we have to think about portion sizes. And I'm sure you all have talked about this, but my students don't realize what a portion size is.
Yeah.
So when you speak of a protein, your body is only capable at one time of taking the size of your fist. Your stomach is the size of your fist. So when you eat, and I can tell you, I think I have 4 fists in there when I'm eating. But it really is. Your body is only capable of managing what fits in your fist. So when you think about that when next you make your plate, it's the consistency at which we eat to keep our insulin level at the same point. Because when we start doing this with our insulin, that's when we have cravings for carbohydrates and sugars. It really is. So more frequency of meals, smaller portions of meals, and balance with vegetables and meats and fruits. Okay? Now, when you're diabetic, you all know, if you are diabetic or you're borderline, you have to be careful about how much sugar you take in. Fruit has a lot of natural sugars. Better for you than like carbohydrates, like a big plate of pasta, not a good plan of action. Delicious, but not proper. All right? So what we've done for you today is we've taken 2 recipes of things that we've done, and we've kind of finagled them to be a bit more diabetic friendly. That is one of the things we have to do with my students. You take a recipe, first of all, a recipe might say 6 servings, but we need to fix for 150. How do I get there? It's fractional math. If you've ever worked with young people, fractional math is not a concept they understand well. What's half of a half?
A quarter.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. Come down sometime, you can hang out. Yeah. So today what we've done is we've taken something traditional, a sloppy joe. Okay? Sloppy joe has a lot of sugar. Brown sugar, ketchup has sugar in it, right? All those things. Worcestershire sauce has salt, so we want to try to not only control our sugars, but we want to also control our salt factors. There are things out there on the market that are good for you, that say low something, low fat, low sugar, low whatever. But honestly, it is more important that if you were to choose the real thing and use it in moderation. Truly. When it says low fat, it's not good for you. Honestly. Like low fat cheese. There's no such thing. What's in it to make it low fat? Plastic. Yes, ma'am. For real. Not to scare you off food. But my students, we go through this, we learn all these things. So when a sloppy joe, what I've done today is we've used a low sodium, low sugar V8 juice in place of some of the ketchup. So in the ketchup, there's a lot of sugar. So what we did was we replaced. And by replacing, we reduce our sugars down by almost half by using vegetable juice. Okay? It's also more nutrition for you. It's more minerals and nutrients in your body to feed your body. Okay? Additionally, what we did, instead of using ground beef, we used ground chicken. Now, yes, or ground turkey, you can use either one. But when you do that, you want to choose, unfortunately, you want to choose the white meat, not the dark meat. The dark meat has more fat, more cholesterol, etc. So when you're thinking about this process, you think about sloppy joe, I'm gonna have a big old scoop of sloppy joe, and it's good. But what I've done is I've replaced part of the ketchup also with mustard. Mustard doesn't have sugar in it. I've also put in half the volume of what you would normally put of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire is obviously mostly sodium, and delicious, I might add. But so I've reduced that by adding in mustard to add another flavor. So what we did was we also added the lovely green apple. Okay? I know that sounds really weird, but it adds a bit of a crunch, which when we eat, we actually want texture, believe it or not. We want texture. And we've cooked the apple a little bit to soften it, but the skin is actually where the important minerals and nutrients are. So just kind of like on the potato, it's better to eat the outside of the potato, not the inside. So, yes, ma'am, it is. The science of food is constantly changing. You all have been around long enough, it's a long time where don't eat any eggs. Eggs are bad for you. They hurt your cholesterol. And now suddenly we're saying, eat eggs. Yeah, it does. It really does. So if you struggle with weight, hi, that's me. You have to decide what size portions you're going to do. An average size portion of sloppy joe is about 4 ounces. Okay? That's a fourth of a cup. 4 ounces. It's not much. Right? And you're like, what in the world? And the other thing you might want to consider, like suggestions that we've made, instead of using bread to house your sloppy joe, perhaps a little bit different, to take some nice butter lettuce leaves and make lettuce wraps with that, because then you can, instead of the carbohydrate intake that you have with the bread, you are now replacing it, which allows you to have a little bit more of it. Now you can go to half a cup. Now, most of us go, I'm going to eat what I want. That's what I say till my doctor says, maybe not. Maybe not this week. Adding things like green apples, adding things with the carrots. There is a natural sugar in carrots, but that is better for you than like mashed potatoes, bread. Who loves homemade bread? Yes. Yes. That's one of the things I teach my students. Well, maybe you should come down and show us how to do it. This lovely lady said, I don't make it very often. Me too. That's how I teach my children. They have to make the yeast bloom and they have to do all that. Yes. It's an invent. You all should come down sometime. We'll have a class. We'll hang out. Additionally, what else we've done today for you is sometimes, in the mornings, the morning time is your most important time of the day. I know you've heard that for years and years and years, but the reality of it is by starting the day with a good insulin level and managing and maintaining it as you move throughout the day, you're not going to have these feelings like, I got to have a Coke at 2 o'clock. That's me. I like a Coke at 2 o'clock. A fountain soda at that, not a bottle. And I like that little pellet teeny tiny ice, which you can't get too often. Sorry, I digress. I do that to my students all the time. They're always like, Chef, let's get back on track. So what we did for you for our morning opportunity is we took the lovely banana, potassium enriched, which is good for you. Has some sugars, so you have to be careful with that. But what we did for you, good. We made a banana bread, but we made it in a muffin format. You're allowed to have 2 of these, roughly 2 of these, in breakfast, which allows you to maintain your sugars, not too much carbohydrate, but also gives you some protein because we've added an enriched flour, a whole wheat flour to it. And then we've also added a little bit of lower fat. Go ahead. Just take one and just pass the tray right on down.
Oh, you only get one?
For now. Obviously, we know who wants a little more. Yeah. When we get everybody one, ma'am, we'll let you have a second. So, I've also added an interesting thing. I've added cherries into this. Now, you might think bananas and cherries. I'm going for tricking your mind. We're having a banana split in this little muffin. We're really not. But I've also added some walnuts. Nuts are a very good option for fat. Okay? Fat in your diet is necessary. But when we do that, by adding nuts. It's a small amount, it's walnuts in it, black walnuts at that, I might add, and bananas and eggs. But you can substitute and use like an egg substitute in place of, like if you want to only use egg whites if you're watching your cholesterol and you're trying to reduce. There's lots of ways that you can fix menus, items to suit your needs, okay? I'll speak for myself. I'm a borderline diabetic. I'm recently 48. 48, what in the world? But anyways, I'm recently 48, and so I'm tiptoeing right on the line. So what I've done with my diet, I've lost about 37 pounds in a year. Now that's not where I should be, but when I go back to the doctor in a few weeks, hopefully she'll smile instead of frown. We'll see. But what I do is, every morning I start my morning with eggs, because they're a good source of protein, they're a filler for your body. I have a fruit for breakfast, okay? I'm gonna eat my sugars in the early part of the day. This is actually 2 servings of fruit. 2, not 1, 2. Yeah. So, and then at lunchtime, I usually eat some kind of lean protein, about 3 ounces. And 3 ounces is about the palm of your hand. Chicken, turkey. I'm allowed to have red meat 1 night a week. Tuesday night. It's a happy night on Tuesday night. So, I was talking with a gentleman earlier who said he liked his meat and potatoes. I said, yes, sir, I completely understand that, and that's Tuesday for me. And then for dinner, I usually have greens and protein, and I'm allowed fruit, except this would be 4 servings of fruit at night. And you really shouldn't eat anything else after about 7:30. You're right. I do a lot. It gets better, I promise. What I also do is, I have about 1 ounce of nuts, a pecan, a walnut, or an almond that I keep readily available that I can have sometime during the middle of the day that if I feel like I'm getting really hungry. And the other thing is, your body, when you think you're hungry, is really thirsty, typically. Now, that's not true. If you haven't eaten all day, then yes, your stomach's growling because you're hungry. But if you can continue with water all along the day, which I realize, as I'm now 48, making it through the night is difficult. Sometimes if I've had too much water, I don't want to get out of the bed at 2:30. But it is very important. The water that you intake should be the amount that you weigh. Ounces. So roughly, if you weigh 128 pounds, you should drink about 1 gallon of water a day. Yeah. Well, we all weigh 128 pounds in here, don't we? It's just how much more do we weigh? But we're all 128, except for, well, maybe Megan. She doesn't weigh 128, maybe. So, yes?
No.
Get it
I
up.
weigh more.
Get that up. They're ready. They want to eat, guys.
I'm sorry. You've been talking.
I know. I told you I was going to talk. Who has questions about diet? Who thinks that they have a fairly good regimen of how they eat, when they eat? Anybody? Nobody in here? Come on now. I know, thank you. Thank you for being the brave soul. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So if you're going to have something like after 7:30, you want to pick a protein because your body can take that on a lot better than a sugar. So if you're, like, I've had to do this sometimes, especially I work in the evenings because I'm in the restaurant industry. So I will eat my largest portion of protein and in the evening because I'm hungry. So choosing is best. I eat a lot of eggs now, more eggs than I've ever eaten in my whole life. I keep hard-boiled eggs in the refrigerator. So like when I get a dozen eggs, I just hard boil them and I have them ready. The other key to eating correctly is preparation. If you're prepared, like if you're gonna make something, make 6 servings of it, and that way you can eat it a couple times. See what I'm saying? So buy enough stuff. If it says 4 servings, make a double, make 8, and then you have things that you can put in ready-to-eat containers. You just take it out. For those of you who cook on a regular basis, it makes it a lot easier because you're cooking like every other night or every 3rd night then, if you don't want to have to mess up the dishes every single day, right? So that preparation is very important. If you're hungry when you go to bed, the best options you have are not this, not sugars. A vegetable that's mostly water, celery, or asparagus is actually very good for you. You can steam that up and have it in there and be ready to eat it. So it's just preparation. It's about being ready. You guys working? How's it going?
We're banana.
Okay, all right. So we're going to be, and for the next 6 minutes, we're going to be getting these things ready to go. There's a question on the floor. Yes, ma'am. So eating out is very difficult. It is. There are lots of choices now on menus, for the most part, where you can make more positive option choices than you have before. The government has mandated that most of the restaurants have to tell you how many calories are in everything now. They have to tell you how much fat is in something. Like, for instance, if you go to McDonald's and you have a double cheeseburger meal and you have a sweet tea, it's like 1,460 calories. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. You're not even talking about the amount of sodium. So when you go out to eat, like, try to pick a restaurant that has green vegetable options, perhaps a salad option, because salad is actually a really good filler. Okay? You're looking to fill up your stomach. The other thing is, if you're drinking water as you go, you'll fill up faster. It's also recommended that you add lemon to your water in the morning. It's a natural cleanser, detoxer for your body. So if, let's say you didn't eat very well the night before, just get a nice piece of lemon, squeeze it, put it into the water, and drink that whole glass of water, and that starts to help automatically detoxing your body of stuff that you shouldn't have eaten last night that you ate. Now that doesn't mean I'm gonna have the big fat piece of cake and squeeze the lemon and it's gonna magically disappear, because it's not. But just have the cake, but only have one bite of the cake. But make sure it's the corner so you get all the icing, all the cake, and all the decoration or garnish that's on the cake. That's the rule. So, you have a question?
Yes. Do you have the recipes?
I did bring recipes for this, yes ma'am. I can also tell you a little bit more individually about the nutritional thing. There's replacements for sugars. We use Splenda in place of sugar in the muffin that you were using. Okay, not the best choice, but a better choice versus sugar. We also reduced it down by adding banana and the natural sugars of the banana. We were able to reduce the amount of sugar. This is stuff that I kind of work on teaching my students. I'm gonna run out of time, but I have a captive audience, so I'm gonna keep going. Yes.
Sodium, salt.
Salt and sodium. So, yes, high blood pressure. Yes, I'm a lovely candidate for this conversation. I should have had this conversation a few years ago. When we deal with salt and sodium, everything has it. If it's anything that has preservatives in it, it's got salt. If it says, if you read the labels on things and it has weird language that you don't know what it is, that's all preservatives, i.e. that's salt. It's either flavorings or salt, or an additive that we put so that we make sure, it's like, oh, this tastes really amazing, but what is it that you're really eating, is the question. Oftentimes doctors will tell you you should eat like the cavemen, okay? Meat, berries, bark. I don't recommend the bark. Cinnamon is a bark, so go with that. Did you have a question?
No.
So when we deal with, I'm sorry, I thought you did. When you deal with salt, you have to choose how you salt things. Unfortunately, when I teach children in French cooking, use salt at every point. So you put the vegetables in the pan, you salt. You add stock, you salt. You add the meat, you salt, right? So, and that's the way traditional cooking is. Except, you can reduce salt, the taste of salt, not the actual sodium content, by adding a milk product to something. Like, I'm sure you've done that before. Or you've added a potato to something that's too salty and it'll pull the salt out of whatever you have, okay? Because it's pulling that salt out. Using low salt or low sodium, I wouldn't do that on an all the time basis. I would pick and choose my options there, because at the end of the day, it's about moderation. It truly is. It's not about exactly what you eat, it's about when you eat and how much you eat. And the other key to that is, how much do you move? Okay? There's this little game you can play if you watch television. Just every time the commercials come on, get up out of the chair. And just, take a little stroll around the room, or raise your arms, or kick your feet, or whatever it is. We used to play this game like, if it's a pizza commercial, you have to do 10 jumping jacks. And if it's a whatever, if it's a car commercial, you have to do squats. Yeah. But every 10 to 15 minutes, just getting up, getting your heart like, woohoo, I'm still here. Right? So it's all that playing together. All right? And so moderation, okay? And when you choose, like for instance, I chose the low sodium V8 today, okay? Because that's a point where I feel like it's okay. There's a lot of nutrients and minerals in there that are going to offset, that are going to add flavor in place of salt.
That's good for you?
Yes, ma'am.
I drink that.
Try the low sodium. Yeah, has a really good flavor. V8 is an amazing thing because there's a lot of opportunities in there. Just a little glass of it. That can count as your vegetable at lunchtime.
I drink it every morning for breakfast.
You go, girl. How we doing?
Doing good.
We're going to be done sometime today.
Hey!
They're children. Does that smell good? Is everybody getting a little bit of a waft now? We have some hungry people, children.
We don't want to make a mess, Chef.
You don't. So I'll tell you a little bit about these two lovely young ladies. They both go to Central High School. They're in red jackets because in my world, when you're in your first year, you're in a white jacket. It's plain, it's blah, right? In their second year, the class picks a color. Burgundy happens to be their color this year, and they get their name embroidered on their jackets. Kind of makes them feel like professionals. Kind of. Sort of. So Megan and Olivia both have been in my program. This is the second year in my program. Megan actually works with me at the Woodstock Cafe and Shops, and Olivia works at the Walmart. That is one of the things that I deal with quite frequently with my children. I really push them to go to work, because I can only give you so much real experience. The real experience comes when you have to go do it with someone else, and they're paying you, and you're not allowed to use your cell phones. That's a tough one. So, thank you. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to wrap. I'm going to say thank you very much. My students and I are going to finish. We're going to pass them down so you guys have a sampling. I have the recipes, which I'll kind of put on the ends of the tables if you guys want to grab one of those. It will talk to you about the substitutions, like Splenda for regular sugar, or when to use an egg replacement, that kind of thing. The two recipes, one for the muffin that you had, and the second for the sloppy joe. You can certainly use chicken or turkey. Just use the white meat, not the dark, not the mixed. So when you buy it like ground, if you don't grind it yourself, look for white chicken or white turkey, because when you do the mix, you're adding fat to the which adds yumminess. But we're all talking about eating good today, so don't forget our lovely friend, the apple. I'm a big proponent of apple. It's a sweetness and a crispness that really works well in your diet, and for nutrition and for digestion. It helps with your digestion. If you have reflux of some description or heartburn frequently, this little guy will help you. It settles it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. An excellent choice. Grapes, frozen. Put them in, true story. If you put them in the freezer, you can eat 2 or 3. It's like having a little popsicle. Yeah. Freeze the grapes. Yes, ma'am. Because your mouth is looking for some kind of cessation, so it's cold and it's sweet. Now, if you're full-blown diabetic, don't eat the grapes at 7:30 at night. Go earlier in the day. Okay? Either one. There's a little more sugar in the red grape than there is in the white. The white is more citric in content. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. I really thank you very much. Oh, I'm trying, Lynn. Go. Yes.
Table salt versus sea salt.
Well, it's more about the flavor. She asked what salt to use. Should I use sea salt or kosher salt or table salt or iodized salt? Salts all have different salt content. However, the thing I would say to you on that is it's kind of a flavor of choice. If you've ever just tasted different salts, there's like a smoked salt. That's amazing. And it adds a whole different flavor to what you're making. Like if I was to add smoked salt in here, let's start moving it through. Yep. Yes, ma'am? Better to use onion powder and garlic powder than salt.
We take one as well.
Yes, ma'am.
You only get one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you only get one.
That open house at Triplet Tech is November the 15th from 5:30 to 7. And the spaghetti dinner starts at 5:30. And you can meander around the building and come and enjoy time with us and our students. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am. At Triplet? What program? Who is your grandson? Oh, he's one of my new favorites. Yes, he is. You just wait till I see him later today. I thank you so much for your kind attention. I hope you enjoy your little snack. And come see us sometime. We'd love to have you.